Okay, so hello everyone. Welcome back to our live session with X Nation Digital. As we promised, we are back with a new style where we will be interviewing one of the subject matter experts and get you with the valuable information for your business growth. Before I tell about today's guest, I want to wait a little bit so that everybody can join. And then I will invite our guest to the studio. Okay, so I see a couple of people are already joined. So let's continue. So today's guest is Zina Malas, the owner of Towley Consultancy. She is an entrepreneur like me, and I was privileged to work with her in my previous company. Now she's running her own business optimization consultancy where she focuses on specific niche for helping business owners. In our conversation with her in the next 30 to 40 minutes, we'll ask Zina a series of questions, and she will provide us with the answers to those questions. And at the end, she will answer the questions coming from you as well. So during the session, you can type your questions in the comment section, and we will answer them at the end by the order as first come, first served. So before further ado, let me invite Zina to our session. Okay. Hi, Zina. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. All great.
So I want to jump in. I see that people are already joined. So I'm going to be looking from multiple devices to see we can answer the questions that people are asking, because today we are streaming from multiple platforms. We are on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook as well. So I'm just trying to be everywhere to catch all the comments. So, okay, so I know you very well, but for audiences, can you start by telling us a little bit about your background and how you got into business optimization consulting?
Of course, of course. So I first started working at a very young age. And like at around the age of 15, I think, I started gathering experience that is useful for me today. I worked in various industries in retail, management, F&B, and we worked together at some point in NGOs and entertainment. And like after working in all of these places, I ended up transitioning to business optimization because the common thing that I found in every single job that I had was that there was something that could be fixed in every single position. So I always found ways of improving the processes and then implementing new strategies to increase like the overall operational efficiency and like to just increase the revenue. So personally, my specialty is marketing. It's something I'm extremely passionate about, and I love learning more and more about the new things that are happening in that industry. And then my passion for Tole, which is my company, stems from a lack that I found in the market. I feel like there's a very large audience that a lot of people tend to overlook, and it's typically the baby boomers generation. They own a lot of the established businesses that we're probably unaware of or that we don't really think about. And I feel like they definitely need support in their transition to like the more modern way of operating with like, the digital realm. And I feel like it's very rewarding to help business owners get back on track with their goals and then help them reach their full potential. It's the small changes that lead to big results that keep me going.
That's so true. That's so true. So thank you so much for sharing this. It's important that the audience knows you, and so that they can get the most out of it. Now I want to get you into the questions which are more related to your company's field, like what you're doing. So let's get a little bit technical. So how would you define business optimization in simple terms, and why is it crucial for businesses today?
Okay. So let me just share my screen actually. I created a presentation for you guys.
Perfect. Let's
Um,
add that to the stage.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there we are.
Okay. So if you want to think about what business optimization is, in very simple terms, it's about fine-tuning the company's operations to ensure that every move is strategically aligned with its goals, driving powerfully towards success. In other words, actually, the way that I would describe it is that business optimization is the art of process improvements, and specifically for my company, it's in five different aspects of any business, which is marketing, operations, financial management, client experience, and then business growth. So it's basically about refining the way a company operates, realigning it with its goals so that it's actually working towards them. This could mean streamlining processes, maybe automating tasks, improving communication. It's all in the details. But basically, the goal is to make sure that a business is running as smoothly and efficiently as possible, which would inevitably lead to better results.
That's right. That's right. So I want to ask you a follow-up question on that, like about the misconceptions. So what are the some biggest misconceptions of business owners, like when it comes the business owners have about like optimization? So can you talk about those biggest misconceptions?
Of course, of course. So, in terms of misconceptions, I definitely think that a lot of people tend to believe that optimization is very specific to big companies. Small businesses tend to completely overlook it because they tend to believe that it's expensive or it's complicated or that it's not the time to do it. But I firmly believe that small changes create a very big impact. So, I don't really think that there are lots of reasons why companies should not go for optimization. It strongly aligns with the idea that, like, as I mentioned, small changes really lead to like big results. So there's this kind of like compounding effect with minor adjustments that eventually take business owners where they're trying to get without feeling exhausted or without feeling that they're really going out of their way. And I can give you a specific example in terms of like small businesses not wanting to do specific things. One of my inspirations for Taule actually was a mini market that was in front of my house, like one of my old houses. In Montreal, we call them dépanneurs, so it's just like a mini market. And when I used to go there, I'd look at it and I'm like, we could do so many minor things that would increase their revenue tremendously. So you can really do things that don't cost you much or even anything at all. It could be free. It could be maybe like changing the way that your items are displayed on the shelves. It could be your offer and how it's presented. It could be your employees, like your customer service, can rework the ambiance. These are small things that you could adjust that would make such a big difference that won't really cost you much or anything at all. But there's also another misconception, which I actually feel like a lot of people tend to think, which is that is it a one-time fix? So just like, do you bring a consultant in, they do their work, they're done? No, it cannot be a one-time fix. And the very simple explanation to that is that the world is ever changing. So with everything new that is happening on a day-to-day basis, you need to constantly improve. You need to continuously look for new ways of doing things. And then the people who tend to think that this is a one-time thing tend to be left behind. But it is definitely an ongoing process. So the more you stay on top of it, the more likely you are to succeed. And you also need to keep track of the progress that you're experiencing so that you can tell what's working and what's not working. And this is a continuous thing. So the way that I see it is that I see optimization as a means to an end. It's not the end itself, right? So
True.
because of that, you also have like customer expectations that are constantly evolving, and the market is so much more dynamic today. So you'd find demands in the ways you least expect. And I actually thought of a specific example, which is there's this guy on TikTok called I don't know if it was Lucas or something like that. But anyway, he's the cucumber guy. They call him the cucumber guy. What he would do
Yeah.
is just do like cucumber recipes. He just chop up, and like put it in a container and then whatever. And it's just to show you how things are evolving and like the demand is changing. Today, some stores have run out of cucumbers, and on top of that, they started pre-cutting them and putting them in containers and selling them. So this is just to show you how demand stems from like the randomest places. But yeah, basically, this is why business optimization is important. It just allows companies to stay ahead of the curve by being proactive instead of reactive.
True, true. And I just saw something related to McGill University and cucumbers. I don't know if it's related to that guy. What can be?
Very possible. Like, yeah, no, crazy.
Yeah, they go viral. So, okay, so we understood what business optimization is and the common misconceptions when it comes to business optimization.
Mhm.
I want to switch gears a bit here and ask you something else. In your experience, what are the key areas businesses should focus on and looking to optimize?
Okay. So from my experience, there are 5 different aspects to any business. So, as you know, like there are different types of businesses, different business models, everyone operates differently. But after doing a lot of research, when I was trying to like create the business plan for Tawle, I came up with 5 main areas, which is marketing, operations, finances, client experience, and then business growth. And obviously, it varies from one business to another, but I feel like these are the 5 common grounds like amongst all businesses. And then specifically, I kind of just wanted to delve into each one of them and explain a little bit more about what it actually entails. So first, I obviously had to start with marketing because it's my specialty. But basically, marketing is the art of communicating the value of your product or service to a specific audience. So today, without marketing, you're losing a lot of potential clients because it's what drives sales to your businesses. It's the exposure that you have to the market that you're trying to target. So it's about showing them how like your offer can change their lives for the better and why they should pick your product over the thousands of other products that are competing in the market. When it comes to like optimization specifically in terms of marketing, I feel like the different pillars of marketing can always be reworked. So this can include refining your target audience, which I think is one of the most important ones, or even retargeting completely. It could be improving your message. It could be leveraging whatever data you already have, so that could guide your marketing efforts. So generally, the way that marketing can be optimized is just basically imagine you're completely redirecting and re-guiding whatever efforts you're trying to put, whether it's monetary or just like creatively. It's just redirecting it in a way that is probably going to get you a lot more results than what you're currently doing. The second thing that is also very, very important, it's your operations. So I think it's fair to say that operations are technically the backbone of any business, regardless of its nature. Without good operations, the delivery of your product or service is practically impossible. I'm talking about like from scratch, like creating something from scratch to the actual literal delivery. So if you don't have good operations, you really don't have a business. It doesn't matter what kind of stuff like offer you have. So by optimizing your operations, businesses can reduce waste. For example, they can shorten the production time or delivery time even. They can facilitate the order fulfillment. So basically optimizing your operations, you're just aiming to ensure that resources are being used as efficiently as possible. You can also adjust like smaller things. Maybe you can automate repetitive tasks. You can reorganize the layout of a workspace for better efficiency. It really depends. It's up to you how you want to do it. It's a case by case kind of thing. But again, it's just to show you that there are minor things that could be done that could really improve things significantly. The third pillar, also super important, is your finances. So I think it's fair to say that financial management is crucial to sustain and grow your business. You can optimize your current practices by budgeting differently, maybe tracking your expenses. You can introduce a new cash flow management system. You can improve your profitability basically by understanding the financial health of your business, where to cut down, where to spend more, what's bringing you an actual good like return on your investment. And it's really important because it also helps you understand how you can create a better offer. So, like I was talking about that in terms of your marketing, but if you don't know if you don't know the financial aspect of your offer, you can't just come up with anything. You have to make sure that it's actually going to bring in more money. And then It'll just allow you to know where to invest more and then where to cut down. So
Exactly.
it's pretty like this is all of like these five pillars are crucial for your business optimization. And then the fourth one is your client experience. So in my eyes, customer experience is what makes your business stand out from the rest. Um, you can have a very decent product and a very decent service, but if you have excellent customer service, you will always set yourself apart. So by optimizing the customer's journey, you can increase the overall satisfaction, loyalty, advocacy, whatever you want. But basically, in today's world, word of mouth is the best marketing tool you can use. Take TikTok, for example. A lot of influencers get brand deals. And the way that it works, although it's on a different scale entirely, but because influencers tend to have this kind of trust, people believe what they're saying. So if they're promoting a product, they're a lot more likely to get their audience to purchase. But if you think about it, everyone is technically an influencer. So by optimizing your client's experience as much as possible, you're giving everyone the chance to be some kind of influencer for your own product. So customer experience is really related to your operations, to your marketing, and to your finances. So this is where it gets very interesting. And then the last pillar, which is business growth technically, is a pillar that I don't really see a lot of people talking about, but it's basically imagine you have, like, you know how you have your mission, vision, values, whatever. So imagine basically you have your vision that is being quantified and turned into actionable points. So you rework your business plan, you understand what you've achieved and where you're aiming to go, and then you figure out how to get there. Could be something along the lines of like opening, I don't know, X amount of branches by a certain year. It could be targeting a new market in a new region. It just really depends on what you're like, where you're trying to go. But optimization allows you to conduct an audit, so you understand where you're currently standing, and then where you could eventually get, like the place that you could eventually get to.
Exactly. So, like, yes, definitely these five pillars are maybe the basis of this, and then as you explained, like it starts with this like a promoting the business, and then, but you need to make sure that you have all those other pillars also
Mm-hmm.
set in place, that it can be a sustainable thing. Otherwise, one or two pillars are missing. I don't think that thing is gonna be sustainable, right?
Mm-hmm.
So uh, so okay, these are probably is gonna be in the long term, which are very important for the small businesses. But let's talk about in a different way. So how can a small business with a limited resources
Mm-hmm.
effectively optimize their marketing strategies then?
Of course. So okay, so you can do it in a lot of different ways. So for small businesses, because I actually think that small businesses need optimization a lot more than big corporations. If you're a huge corporation, you already have all of like your SOPs are already set in place. You know, like everything has already been thought of and worked on. But if you're a small business, because you have limited resources, this is where optimization gets really, really interesting. So when it comes to like your marketing, for example, small businesses optimizing like your marketing strategies is really does not need to be expensive. One of the most effective ways actually is to refine your target audience. If you're running an ad, let's say, and then you're just spending money, $5, $10 per day, but then it's not specific to your target audience, in a way you are wasting money because you're not going to be getting any return on your investment. So one way of doing it, which is actually more or less free, it's to understand who your ideal customer is, and then this allows you to re-guide your marketing efforts. So when you understand who's more likely to be interested in your products or services, you go from a very broad target to a very narrow one. Another approach, once you understand who your like ideal customer is you can improve your messaging. So think of how you'd want to approach this specific audience. If you're approaching people between the age of 18 and 22, for example, you're not going to talk to them in the same way that you'd be talking to someone who's 50. So like this is something to consider, and this is something that is going to change and improve your campaigns significantly. And then there's another thing as well today, which is digital marketing. And I think this is the thing that people tend to think about when they think of digital marketing. Traditional marketing is not dead, but it has evolved a lot. And when we think of digital marketing, we're thinking of like social media, for example, which is a very powerful tool for any business at any scale. But there's also the other parts of digital marketing that we don't really think much about, because like digital marketing equals social media. But think of like Google My Business or content marketing or, SEO. So there are different ways that you could just like optimize your marketing for your business without having to spend much. It's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward, I think.
Exactly, exactly. And like in the last thing that you mentioned, definitely this is like we were also promoting in X Nation that there should be a healthy combination of things. It's not only social media, or it's not only one of two or those things. Like, of course, it's going to be tailored to a business according to what they need, according to their nature of their business, if they're local or international, whatever. But it's always better to have this healthy combination of multiple methods that will also increase the results, right?
Hmm. For sure. Definitely. Definitely.
So, can you give us an example of a simple operational change that can lead to a big result?
Of course, of course. So, in terms of like simple operational changes that you could do, you'd be surprised, but actually one of the simplest things could be inventory management. I've been repeatedly surprised by the way that a lot of businesses are operating. They do it in a very traditional way. So it's literally either like manually they write it down, or they have Excel sheets for huge inventory. So for a lot of businesses, retail and F&B, so like restaurants specifically, inventory management can be a very big challenge, surprisingly. So by optimizing their systems, you can be using software to like track their stock levels, or to get a warning about maybe overconsumption, or just for you to generally know what's going in and out of your business in a much more efficient way. And this not only like does it help you save money, but it also allows your customers to know better, because then you would know more, so that your customers would automatically know more. um, Another example of like operational changes could be uh, employee retention methods. So when you have a high employee turnover, specifically I'm thinking of restaurants, because people tend to like go in and out very quickly for a lot of reasons, but like it's the place with the highest turnover rate, I would say. Finding ways to keep your employees with you is super important, because when they leave, the cost that comes with it, and I'm not just talking like financial cost, but just like generally the time that you have to spend to train someone else over and over again, is a huge waste. So might as well just try to tackle the issue from the source, and then try to keep people in. Um, and then when it comes to your operations generally, I think like optimization tends to focus on the smaller back end details a lot more than the bigger picture. Obviously, it's taken into consideration, but since it's setting things on track and then streamlining very specific tasks in a way that is just like aims to improve the overall efficiency, by implementing these simple practices, you're automatically saving a lot of money and then increasing your revenue. Like,
That's so true. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Like those are the like the initial things definitely the
mhm.
businesses can do, and I totally agree on the inventory and the retention part of it. That definitely like is not something easy to achieve maybe in the beginning, but you need to really prioritize that. That will be so much useful in the long term.
Yeah,
Uh, Now I want to ask you about the cash flow and profitability.
for
What
sure.
the simple financial management practices that can business adopt to improve cash flow and profitability?
Oh, for sure, for sure. So, oh, this was just like related to operations where you could just be making a bit more money. But when it comes to your finances, actually, it can be very interesting. So, one of the simplest but like most effective financial practices, I would say, is regular budgeting. So, I don't know if you noticed, but like a lot of the things that were mentioned are things that might seem super obvious, but because they're not done regularly and in like not in an optimized way, you end up losing a lot. So, for example, when it comes to your finances, budgeting is super important. You can create a detailed budget and then try to stick to it as much as possible. Because, like businesses, that can control their spending tend to know how to allocate certain funds in certain places. So, this really helps you avoid unnecessary expenses and then make sure that you have the funds that are available for other aspects of your business. So, it could be for your marketing, for your operations, for like to improve your client experience. And then another key practice I think as well would definitely be tracking your expenses. So just make sure you understand where the money is coming in and then where it's going out. And you can always optimize it by doing specific things. So it could be like negotiating your contracts with suppliers, for example. It could be finding more cost-effective materials. It could be cutting out non-essential expenses. It's a lot simpler than you think. So like more often than not, optimization takes away instead of adding. So that's the idea behind it. It simplifies things. In terms of like your cash flow, I would say cash flow forecasting is super important. I think by projecting your future cash inflows and then outflows as well, your business can anticipate potential shortfalls and then work accordingly to try to adjust so that they could avoid these problems. And this could be like adjusting payment terms with your customers or suppliers, maybe deciding that you'd pay them on a quarterly basis instead of a monthly basis, for example. It could be managing your inventory in a more effective way, or it could be securing more money from your investors so that you can do different things. And then there are other ways of also improving that, which is you could improve your pricing strategies, and it can have a direct impact on your profitability, I would say. So there are different ways of pricing your offer, I would say. And for example, one pricing strategy that I really like is called the decoy method. It's when
Yeah,
you have three price points. I think you know about it, but like it's
yeah,
we've spoken about it before. But it's basically when you have three price points for a product, so like a subscription, for example, and then every tier has more and more to offer. So like, in a lot of different places. It's just like as the more expensive it gets, the more features you get. But then the decoy would be the second product that is just slightly cheaper than the most expensive one, because you're more likely to sell that specific product instead of the cheapest or more expensive one. So this is like one strategy that I really like. There are a lot of different ones that I really like as well, but at Taulia we recommend. It depends on the type of business that you have, but this is one of them.
exactly. I think it's all about the psychology. So decoy or the anchoring pricing strategies are like very similar in that sense. Yeah.
Mhm.
So what about the customer experience and the bottom line then? Like a customer experience is often talked about, but how does optimizing it directly impact a business's bottom line?
Okay. So in terms of your client experience, optimizing your customer's experience specifically has a very, very direct impact on your business. So when your customer has a positive experience, they're a lot more likely to return, to make more purchases, or to even refer your business to other people. So by improving their customer journey, and this could be done in different ways, maybe improving the like the response time. It could be faster checkout. It could be having very like personalized offers. You automatically increase your customers' loyalty and then lifetime value. And then satisfied customers are a lot more likely to leave positive reviews, which automatically attracts more people. And if you have a bad customer experience, you can have an amazing product, but you can guarantee that it's just not going to work out. Because you, at the end of the day, like the customer is always right mentality also needs to be embellished in a lot of ways so that you can get the best possible outcome. And interestingly enough, there's a study from like Forrester Research, they're called, that shows that businesses that prioritize customer experience see revenue increases by up to like 10 to 15%. And and this is just like, and there was one company that managed to achieve that just by simplifying the process as much as possible and then optimizing the checkout system. And generally, this not only helps you save money, and make more money, but it also drives you, like it drives in more traffic to your business.
That's true. Yeah, the data is there, and like that's a great achievement. Like by doing that change and
Mm-hmm.
getting that return, it's impressive.
Mm-hmm.
So now I want to focus on the examples, so we can help our viewers to understand what you just explained through some case studies.
Sure.
But before I do that, I want to remind once again to our viewers that we will be answering your questions at the end of this session. So keep typing your questions in the comment section, and we will go by the order and answer them. So let me continue. So you mentioned earlier that the small changes can lead to a big results, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you share an example where this was the case?
Of course, of course. So Tawli itself works with mainly with small businesses, I would say, specifically retail and F&B. And then more recently, we've been focusing on two different types of clientele, which is baby boomer businesses and startups. So I'm going to give you two real life examples, one that is in retail and one that is like in a restaurant. So in terms of like the retail store, actually, I'm going to give you a hypothetical example and then explain how we would treat it. So let's say we have a client who owns a clothing store. They've had it for 30 years, and they still rely on their original clients who have always been there. This specific type of business falls under like the baby boomer retail stores. This is specific to them.
Yeah.
Over the past few years, they've lost a lot of their business because of fast fashion, online shopping, and just like general client, like the client's way of purchasing stuff. And then some of the things that we would implement with Tawli would be to digitize their inventory so that we know on a laptop, on a screen, whatever, just exactly what they have in store. We would change the store layout. We would create an e-commerce store as well. We would re-strategize their social media, and then we'd optimize their digital presence generally. So this way, we're tackling all aspects of a business that we could, put together. And then one thing that we actually pride ourselves with Tawli is how quickly we get things done. So each project just takes like a few weeks to complete. And then at the end, they'd be visible to a much wider audience, and they'd be able to promote themselves a lot, like in a much easier way. In parallel to that as well, because I feel like if you have baby boomers, like you're working with baby boomers, they're less
Mhm.
likely to want to learn these things and then handle their accounts themselves. So the way that it would work is that we teach them the simplest way of doing things. So like maybe just like how to take a picture or how to send it to us or whatever it is. And then I'd refer them to one of Tauli's partners that could then handle their social media accounts. So this is how it would work. And then the results, I think, and it would just be based on data, and it would be based on, like tested methodologies. We already kind of expect what the outcome is going to be. We realize how much inventory we actually have by like digitizing stuff. You have to go through everything you have, so you find and you dig up a lot of stuff, and you'd be able to then optimize it in a way that would increase your store visits and your sales at the same time, because now you have an e-commerce store. So this is how it would work. It's
Yeah.
pretty interesting.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you mentioned like you also work with restaurants, right? I love the idea of simplifying the menu for the restaurant.
Me
How
too.
can something as simple as reducing a menu make a such big impact and like a difference?
For sure, for sure. So I'm a huge, huge advocate for simple menus. I think simple menus are the way to go if you want to have a restaurant. If it's just like one page, it's even better. If it's just three, four lines, even better. But it's just like my personal opinion. I feel like simplifying a menu can have a really deep impact on your restaurant's operations on so many levels. So I worked with an F&B business that was struggling with like high food costs at some point and like inconsistent quality. And the reason for that is that the restaurant offered a menu of around like 15 pages, which made it super difficult to manage the inventory and then maintain consistent quality across all dishes. And in my personal opinion, which is why I'm such a big advocate of simple menus, is that an extensive menu tends to hold a very negative connotation or like it gives you a bad impression, because you can't have a menu this large and still deliver quality with every dish that you're serving. You need to have a specialty. So like the more items you have, the less likely it is that all of them are good. Um, and then when it comes to like actually simplifying a menu, the way that it works is pretty simple and it's pretty straightforward. So we focus on the dish, on like the dishes that were most popular and that had the best like margins in terms of profit. And then it involves just basically analyzing sales data to identify like what's selling most, and then removing the ones that are really not. And then by reducing the numbers of dishes, you're also reducing the number of ingredients needed. So in that way, you're able to save money in that aspect. And then another strategy was also finding common ingredients between the dishes. So this allowed us to like refine our approach with the suppliers, lessen the amount of ingredients in terms of like variety, and just focus on the same ingredients just in a bigger quantity. And then on top of that, there are only benefits, like there are only perks to having a short menu. And then like on top of that, the kitchen staff could also focus on perfecting these like this small amount of dishes, which would then improve the quality and speed of your service. So when we did that, the impact was very substantial. The food costs actually dropped by 15%, and customer satisfaction scores increased a lot because the dishes were like, it was also kind of like reputation management. We managed to get things back on track. So the customer experience was not only good because of the quality, but it was also the process of choosing the dish. When you have a short menu, you don't really need to go through that many pages. You just have these very specific items in front of you. You get to choose what works and what doesn't. And then this just managed to improve the general experience of everyone in the restaurant, from staff to customers to front of house. So I highly recommend.
Yeah, definitely. And I know that like you're focused on restaurants at this moment, and then you gave the example from the restaurant's menu.
Mhm.
There might be other people from different industries watching us right now and later. Uh, and I think definitely this still can be some way of optimizing your business by looking at the sales data, as you mentioned. Like just look at the data and whatever is working, focus on your strength, like whatever the product, because it's all about this inventory you're creating. And even especially with your resources, if they're limited in the beginning, you need to be really careful what to focus on. And
Mhm.
once you want to scale it, maybe things might be different. But like this can be, what I'm saying is like this can be really applicable to different industries as well. Because when you look at the base, it's all about focusing more on what's working
Mhm.
and making it better, creating that satisfaction with the users or the clients or the people who are eating in your restaurant.
100%, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So, from your experience, what are some common challenges businesses face when trying to implement these optimizations?
Oof. Okay, there are a lot, but I definitely think the biggest one would definitely be the resistance to change. And I understand, like you also whenever you're approaching a client, you also have to think of who they are, what kind of mentality they may have. But basically think of it in a way where it's like business owners or employees who have been doing the same thing for such a long time are a lot less likely to want to, implement change, even if it's better for them. But like if they've been doing something for long enough, they know it perfectly, so they don't really want to do anything else. It's more of like the traditional way of operating. But the way that personally I like to do it is I kind of like to address this form of resistance and fear in a way that makes them feel safe. So involving everyone in the process, and not just like the business owner or just like maybe the head of a certain department, but like involving everyone is really helpful, um, because it makes them feel a lot more safe as well. And then there's another thing as well that could also be problematic, which is a lack of data or resources. So if small businesses never kept track of their sales, or maybe they don't have enough funds to implement something new, it can also be a little bit complicated for us, because then we'd have to start everything from scratch, or just, I wouldn't say assume that certain things are in a way, like operating a certain way, but then we'd have to put hypothetical numbers based on certain, like very, very vague data. But then one thing that Taulia has done to mitigate these two challenges actually is just focusing on specific things. So personally, my way of approaching people is through a very clear and personal communication. So I handle the communication with my clients directly. I want to understand exactly where they're coming from, where they're trying to get, and generally what they're able to give. And then another thing, which I also learned recently, is having a very good guarantee to your offer. So, like something along the lines of, if this doesn't work, you don't need to pay, or if it doesn't work, I'll refund you everything, like whatever it is that you've already spent. And basically, the way that it's done is you try to make the client feel as safe as possible, and then you also minimize the risk that they might be experiencing. So it's a win-win situation for everyone in the end, but you need to be sure that you're going to deliver the product properly. But then one way of doing it, I think, is just like start small, scale from there. You don't need to go big very quickly. And then some changes are going to lead to quick wins. They're not necessarily monetary, but if your staff is able to operate better, it's already a win that will eventually lead to something better. And I always say that simplicity is key, regardless of how new or young your business is. The point of optimization is to facilitate, not complicate. So the challenges could like always be mitigated. There just needs to be this kind of like openness to it. But that's it.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes less is more, right?
Exactly.
So, like, I want to go into the final part and like quickly discuss about the tools as well, tools and
Mhm.
techniques a little bit. I know we are going a little bit extra on the time, but hopefully we're gonna finish in the next maybe like a 10 minutes.
Mhm.
So, are there any specific tools or resources you recommend for businesses looking to start optimizing their operations?
Definitely. So there are endless amounts of tools, I think, like honestly, endless amounts. But the most important four would be um, inventory management, CRM. Inventory management depends on the type of business that you have, but if you're retail or F&B, it's crucial. CRM, project management, and then something for communication. Very specifically, my recommendation when it comes to like inventory management would be like Odoo or Zoho. For CRM, HubSpot or Salesforce. Project management could be Asana or Trello. Communication could be Slack or Teams. A lot of these offer a free, like they have a free tier so that you can actually use it without having to spend anything. And at Tole, we're always really like learning about new softwares. We find new stuff every other day. So we really have like a database of softwares with various price points and like different offers and features. And then depending on what the client needs, we recommend a specific tool. And then an important point as well, it really depends on how like tech savvy they are,
Yeah.
because if we're kind of like, this is where it gets a bit more complicated than just an Excel sheet, but at the same time, once you get the hang of it, it's so much easier. And when it comes to like daily integrations, I would say, so like how you can use these tools in your day-to-day life in terms of your businesses, I would say that inventory management tools are super important because your entire business would run on what you already have in stock. And then when it comes to like CRM, so like client relationship management, it's really important because you can keep track of the details of your clients, their names, their emails, where they come from, what their age are, how many times they've purchased from you, their like lifetime value. And it's super important because then you get to like tailor your marketing to that as well. When it comes to like project management tools and then communication tools as well, they go hand in hand technically. It's basically where you're able to keep track of your tasks, your deadlines. You can track your progress. You can know who's taking care of what, if something is complete or still pending. So it basically just helps you minimize the margin of error that would be there. But yeah, this is basically how you can implement them in your day-to-day life.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing them.
Mhm.
So let me step back a little bit here and then ask you, for a business owner who's just starting out with optimization,
Yeah.
Where should they begin? Like, what is the first step?
Okay, so definitely, and I've always said that the first step is identifying where you have your problems. So you have to run a very in-depth audit so that you'd be able to assess what needs to be fixed and like just identify any bottlenecks, any inefficiencies, or areas where you're not achieving your desired results. Without it, there's no point in doing any optimization because you're just going to be investing time and then energy and then money into something with no direction. So once you run an audit, you have to start with it. You can do everything else. So let's say you've identified the areas that need improvement. You can focus on the what we call like the low hanging fruit, which is basically the small and easy to implement changes that can get you very quick wins. And this could be something as simple as like reorganizing your workspace. It could be improving your communication. It could be refining the messaging that you're using for your marketing. It could be retargeting or finding your ideal client. These are minor things that are definitely going to lead to very big changes. And then I feel like starting with these small, quick wins builds momentum, but it also shows the value of optimization to your staff and to your team. So it becomes a lot easier to tackle the more complex issues.
Exactly. So, but what about the tracking results? Like, I want to ask you on this too. And how important is it to track results of these changes, and what should businesses like be looking for?
Mhm. So when it comes to tracking your results, I think it's absolutely crucial actually, because without tracking, you won't really know um, the effects of the changes that you're trying to implement. So you don't know if you're actually getting the outcome that you're looking for. So this is where like KPIs are basically their key performance indicators. This is where they're super important because once you set measurable KPIs and then measurable goals, you can objectively assess the success of your optimization efforts. And then you can make informed decisions about what to continue, what to stop, what to adjust, etc., etc. So depending on the area that you're trying to optimize, there are specific KPIs that you would need to implement. For example, if you're focusing on your marketing, you might want to track stuff like your customer acquisition cost, your conversion rates, for example, your ROIs. So it just really depends on the specific aspect that you're trying to target. Let's say if you're trying to optimize your operations, you would think of your fulfillment times, your inventory turnover, production efficiency, for example. For customer experience, it could be something completely different. So, like your customer satisfaction score, their retention rates, how often they come back, how much money they're spending. So it just depends on the area, but it's super, super important to keep track of all of these things so that you'd be able to assess what needs to be fixed and what is like fine. Um, and it's also important to review these metrics regularly and then be prepared to use them for like your next steps. So optimization, as like I mentioned previously, is not a like set and forget it kind of thing. It requires ongoing monitoring and then tweaking so that you keep improving and then you make sure that you don't plateau when it comes to your business.
Mhm.
So by consistently tracking and analyzing your KPIs, you can ensure that your efforts are actually driving meaningful and sustained improvements in your business.
Yeah, this is great information, by the way. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
While we're approaching to the end of our session, let me ask you this.
Mhm.
If you could give business owners one piece of advice when it comes to optimization, what would that be?
Go for it. Always. I really believe that there's room for improvement wherever you go. And then optimization really is not as scary as you think it is. I feel like a lot of people tend to be put off by the word optimization because it feels a lot more complicated than it actually is. But optimization is basically introspection on a business level. So go for it. It's going to help you significantly increase your profits and then just facilitate the way that your business runs. So definitely, definitely go for it.
Yeah, definitely. So shall we answer a couple of questions from our audience then?
Sure.
I see that there is already a one question from Hani Merhi.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just gonna see if I can put that into the, yes, onto the screen. So first of all, thank you so much for the comment. We're happy that you get a really good uh, outcome out of this. So I think the question is here. Don't you think the more people related to programs are integral for whole business optimization process? Do you believe it's worth having a separate bucket related to people management to focus on that is equally, if not more important than marketing, operations, and financial management?
For sure, definitely. I feel like the people management aspect would fall under operations because it's a lot more internal. But I definitely think it's crucial because at the end of the day, it's the staff and the people who are working in a business that are gonna take things where they're supposed to go. So it's super important to make sure that internally your staff knows how to communicate with one another. They know how to talk to their superiors, to their team, perhaps. But I think it's super, super important to have this kind of thing implemented for sure. Without it, there's no point. Like really, there's no point. You could implement a bunch of new systems. You can push people to do so much more. You can add softwares. You can remove softwares. You can add strategies, but if the people are not the ones handling these things, there's no point. So definitely, I think it's super important.
I totally agree. And like that's a great question that came
Mm,
from Mr. Hani. So I think that shows us like really the people part of the business is like really also really important, right?
yeah, for sure.
So as we are running your so like as we're coming to the very end, I want to ask you these like a final questions. Now
For
you're running your own business consultancy. So what's your next, like what is next for you in your journey as a business consultant? Are there any exciting projects or plans you would like to share with our audience?
There's a lot of upcoming projects actually. Right now, it's like we're more focused on establishing the base, getting putting ourselves out in the market for sure. And I think the next step would be very exciting. I don't want to go too much into it, but I would say it's more of like an educational program that could be beneficial to a lot of people for sure. But yeah, there's a lot coming.
That's great. We're waiting for it. Looking forward to it. Okay, so I'm just gonna stop this presenting and I want to ask you one final question.
Of course.
So where can our listeners connect with you if they want to learn more or get in touch with you?
So right now, LinkedIn for sure. There's the website www.tauleconsultancy.com where we could connect. There's Instagram as well. So you can find me anywhere really. Just like we can connect on any platform.
Yeah, anyone wants to connect with Zina as well, you can reach out to me and I will connect you with Zina too. But definitely LinkedIn, website, go for it and connect with her. I'm sure she's going to be a great help to you.
Yeah, but that's it, I
Ah,
guess.
thank you so much, Zina, for joining
Thanks
us.
for
Like
having
it was a great session. Like we got wonderful information from you. And I love the presentation as well. Like it was really onto the point.
me. Thank you. Thank you.
So, okay, everybody, that's all for today. I hope you found this session helpful and informative. Remember, you can always reach out to us on our social media website for digital marketing needs, and we are here to help. We wish you a wonderful rest of the day, and we say goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.